Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Refounding Fathers. We are joined here with Boogaloomike.
Hey, what's going on? Good to be back, guys.
So, we're just doing a normal thing.
This is our second time having him on. This is going to be a little bit of the possibly less rowdy Refounding Fathers because we're all a little hungover from a night of debauchery.
Or I don't get bothered by that affliction.
Oh, I forgot. Man has an iron liver.
Dude, you have a superpower.
I do.
So, what do we want to start on here?
Let's talk about the new Xbox.
Yeah, so
it's just the
we'll jump into something lighthearted first. I haven't really heard a whole lot about that new Xbox, but I have seen the pictures and it looks goofy as shit.
Yeah,
It looks like a computer tower.
Yeah, like it reminds me a little bit, except the one we used to have. It was an Apple computer tower, and it was like a fucking tower. It sounded like a jet engine every time it turned on because all the cooling fans and shit in it. But it was like as tall as the Xbox there, but it was like stacked 3 deep, and it reminds me of that.
I just love all the photoshops because
Yeah.
there was one of like 2 Xboxes and they were just photoshopped, so they're super tall, and the Twin Towers was great.
So, yeah, here's the new, y'all obviously can't see this, but picture of the new Xbox X Series. Supposed to be the fastest and most powerful game station on the market when it gets released.
I don't know. They said that about the Xbox One.
We'll see if the PlayStation spanks it or not.
Yeah, PlayStation might try and up its game. I haven't really heard much about that though. Like, is it gonna have awesome fucking features? Do they have all the games? Like,
So
what
there is not a lot of info on it. They have a short 1.5-minute video on YouTube, and it just shows it's impressive looking visuals. It's just little clips and snippets of like Master Chief running through a battlefield and like some race cars driving and some people playing FIFA because apparently that's actually a popular game for some reason.
What? That's how they're gonna get people. They're gonna get people on their nostalgia for that. I mean, I love the fuck out of Halo.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm gonna buy it. I'm Halo till I die, even if the newest Halos weren't that great.
I heard that the MSRP for it's gonna be like $700 though.
Yeah, I've heard rumors between 5 and 700. Again, I'm on the Xbox website. It's not saying anything about it.
No, they won't release any.
Fucking hell! I'll buy a $700
PC
and just
Oops.
and just enjoy more games, and more possibilities of games.
Yeah,
unless we
than
can
with the
find a way
Xbox.
to use the Xboxes to communicate without internet or electricity after the hootenanny.
Oh, so we're gonna rewire them on ham radios,
Exactly.
Xbox hams.
Exactly.
That could be interesting.
Just duct tape a Baofeng radio onto the Xbox. This is my ham radio.
Just absolute unit.
It has all the computing power in the world that it doesn't need. I also have to carry this string of car batteries hooked up in series and parallel just right to get the electricity required to run it.
That's one of the things, like, the new Xbox, it looks like it could be interesting, but they keep making game systems bigger and bigger now. Like, Nintendo had the right idea with the Switch.
Oh, yeah.
They made it smaller and you could take it everywhere. I want to be able to throw my Xbox in a backpack with a projector and go pretty much anywhere and set it up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point there, because, I mean, I guess you don't need it, but this is something that we've recently got back into, like LAN parties on computer games.
Yeah.
These are fun as shit to play, and you don't have to have a fucking subscription to something just to be able to play online with people. And you can just, fucking throw a laptop in a backpack, head over to your buddy's house and set up a LAN party and have some fun on Age of Empires. Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
Good.
Speaking of subscriptions, so I got a subscription to the Gun Owners of America organization.
Yeah.
And got a message from them recently. Georgia is it's been pre-filed already. It's a new assault weapons bill.
the semi-auto one.
What was it?
Yep.
What was it? SB.
I've got it right here. Give me 1
251?
second. It is. Senate Bill 281.
281.
281.
They're calling it the Georgia Firearms and Weapons Act. It has been penned by Senator James of the 35th District.
Okay, so this one is going to ban, I don't remember everything about it, but this one is like aimed at semi-automatic weapons. What was the semi-automatic weapons that hold
I've
more
got the
than...
verbiage right here. This part shall be known and may be cited as the Georgia Firearms and Weapons Act. As used in this part, the term automatic or semi-automatic gun means any weapon which shoots or is designed to shoot automatically more than 6 shots without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger, or without any action needed to fire consecutive shots other than having ammunition loaded in such weapon's feeding device. Basically, if you've got an AR-15, that's the one everyone thinks of, AR-15, you get more, if it's capable of holding more than 6 shots, which you can get magazines that hold more, so the weapon is capable of holding more than 6 shots, and you don't need to do anything else besides pull the trigger. You don't need to work an action, so that would be banned. A lot of people don't realize it's going to ban Ruger 1022s. It's going to ban a variety of semi-auto hunting shotguns.
Probably handguns if they
and handguns.
The right way.
Oh, they did. They didn't specify rifles.
Yeah.
That'll ban like
everything.
Sport. Like you can't go shoot. What's that called?
IDPA, IPSC.
I'm thinking clay pigeons and shit. Like that's a sport. People do that shit. Not that the sport is what makes it a problem.
Mm-hmm.
These are not sporting things. The Constitution wasn't there to defend your right to sport or hunt. But it's even going to ban that.
Yeah. And it's going to ban a large variety of guns that for years the government said, oh, we don't want your hunting guns. Well, no, this is going to take away a large portion of hunting guns.
You are a fool if you believe that the federal government wants you to own weapons that are equivalent to what they have. They will... Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And any official in government power doesn't want his people to be able to take over his office. It's not... They don't want it. They just can't... They can't find a way to override the Constitution yet without extreme backlash like we're seeing in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And the more ridiculous thing of this is just the fact that people are openly agreeing with this or openly trying to get legislation like this passed. If you tried to do this, near the beginning of America, I can only imagine how fucking murdered you would be.
Yeah, and so one thing we need to realize is in Georgia, this bill has an almost 0% chance of passing. I even talked to a couple of state reps, and they've told me it has a 0% chance of passing. But that's not what scares me. I'm not scared of the idea of it passing. I'm scared that... What scares me is that someone thought it was a good idea to even file it in the first place.
Yeah, filing that bill is such a direct violation of the Constitution. That representative should be in prison right now.
Yeah, and the only problem with that is who's going to put him in prison? Absolutely fucking nobody. So this kind of goes over to the Virginia stuff. I just read in an article here, they're talking about, I'll just read the quote here. I think there's a lot of maybe misunderstanding about what the impact of these statements and these resolutions being adopted will do. They are nothing more than position statements. They don't have the force of law. So counties making themselves sanctuary cities, that's what he's referencing, or deputizing people, doesn't have the force of law behind it. And then he goes on to say, when the General Assembly goes into session for the entirety of the 90 days, Fauquier County will have a lobbyist in the halls of Richmond. Oh, that wasn't the one I wanted to say. Those laws are enforced and citizens have to abide by them.
So, do you know what I just heard? County ordinances aren't legal.
Yeah, so...
Anarchy!
So break your speeding laws.
Yeah.
Ignore traffic laws completely because they don't have the force of
everywhere.
law.
Just drink on the side of the road. They can't do anything.
Yep, because obviously the counties don't have power to enforce law.
You want to shoot off big-ass fireworks? Shoot off some big-ass fireworks.
So this is a direct example of the state not only not giving a shit, but directly stating they don't have power. Your county government, your local government, is pointless if it has no power. So why the fuck even have it? What are we paying these people for, if that's their mentality? Or it goes the other way. Obviously they have actual power, and the fucking state's gonna have a real hard time learning that lesson. That is not going to be a fun one for them to learn.
Yeah, it almost sounds like I'm not too great with all the legal speak. I'm a trigger puller, not a politician. But it kind of sounds like he just said, our laws have no authority over you, so we're going to pass a law that has authority over you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, he's also saying, like, no matter what this he said, when they go into session and these laws become real and they go into fruition, they are the law and you must abide by them. So, what would our founding fathers have thought about that? Oh, just because it was passed into law means it's okay? No. There are quotes of them saying that any unjust law should be ignored.
Not only are you allowed to ignore it, it is your duty to ignore it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know we got a lot of people in Virginia who will gladly do their duty, but,
Whatever that may mean.
Whatever that may mean, but Virginia, you gotta fucking step it up.
Yeah.
Because it's about
Oh, they are. I think they're doing everything in their power right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're not kicking anything off.
There's
but
90 out of 93 counties.
93 counties out of 130.
That's what it
Okay.
is. But that's still a vast majority.
Vast majority. And the other counties haven't all voted yet, so.
The only thing controlling Virginia is a fucking city.
Yeah. It's the coast. The coast is fucking them. But, like I was saying, Virginia, not only do you have to step up your game, but when these laws are passed, you have to realize that you can't stop there. Just because you lost the legal battle does not mean you can stop. This does not stop until you have won. You have to understand what that might imply and ready yourself for whatever the fuck may come.
Yeah.
Because they might come kicking doors down and killing people over this.
Yeah.
Do not let them kill people.
But the
over
National
this.
Guard would never do it. They did it in Katrina.
Yeah. Hurricane Katrina.
They beat the shit.
That's a good one to talk about, actually. Yeah. So, they put in... It was almost like martial law during Katrina.
They had soldiers in full battle rattle with sheriff's office cops basically going door to door confiscating weapons. Because, oh man, there was a lot of water.
Because they were in a state of emergency, obviously you lose your rights, I guess.
I'd like to play a little soundbite, if that's alright.
Give it a go.
Alright.
Today in New Orleans, they got a lot tougher on the holdouts.
Police department in your home!
Not only the flooded areas, but New Orleans' driest and wealthiest neighborhoods, too.
Police department!
The police and National Guard going street by street, house to house.
We need to make sure, too, that whenever we knock on doors, people refuse to leave, we need to make note, call it in.
They say there are no orders to use force, just strong persuasion, sometimes entering open houses with guns drawn, and instructions to disarm anyone inside.
You say guns will be taken. No one will be able to be armed. We will take all weapons.
That happened today in this wealthy neighborhood where homeowners had armed themselves to protect their mansions. Residents were handcuffed on the ground. In the end, police took their weapons but let them stay in their homes.
Let them stay in their homes?
So, okay. I want to point out the fucking doublespeak there. They said, the reporter said, the police were not using force, they were using persuasion and sometimes entering homes with guns drawn. That's force! That's not persuasion! You have guns and you're pointing them at people, telling them to give you their guns!
You were not asking them to give you their guns. You weren't like, hey man, we think it's best if everyone gives their guns in, but it's up to you. It was, I have a gun to your head, give me your gun.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I love how it was like, it sounded like optimistically said, they were being confiscated, they were disarming them, but letting them stay in their homes. This is my fucking property.
Don't worry,
you can't
you have
let
permission.
me
You
stay
have
in
the
my
permission to
property.
stay there. Don't worry, you're fine. You
Yeah.
can stay in your own house.
You do not give me that permission. The fucking Constitution gives me that permission. And they do not give you the permission to fucking knock on my door and come in with guns. Like, that's how you get way more room.
Because, yeah. all because, oh no, my natural disaster. Yeah, it sucks. A lot of people died. A lot of people got killed unnecessarily because some people were just assholes. But that doesn't mean that everyone in New Orleans didn't have their guns taken away.
To quote one of my favorite short speeches on YouTube, my rights trump your dead.
Yeah.
I don't fucking care.
More soldiers have died
I'm doing
fighting
a shot.
for the Second Amendment and the entire Bill of Rights, the Constitution completely. More soldiers have died in war fighting for those rights than will ever die when it comes to, guns not being controlled hard enough.
Oh, yeah.
And with all this universal background check bullshit, no one who says we need universal background checks has ever bought a gun. Or they're just lying.
Yeah, because they don't know the process.
It is such an in-depth process.
Well, let me tell you.
You can't... There is no gun show loophole. If you go to a gun show, you still have to get background checked if you buy a firearm.
So
they pushed back all of my paperwork when I was trying to buy a firearm because I accidentally put 400 instead of 300 under my address. The number for where I was living at the time. I put 400 on accident.
Yeah.
And all of my paperwork got pushed back.
So for those of y'all who don't know, if you've never bought a gun before, or maybe you've only ever done it once, you don't really remember the process, I'm going to run you through it. You've got what's called a Form 4473. It's a government-issued form. And on that form, you put your name, your entire name. If you have a middle name, you have to put your middle name.
Yeah.
If you have a suffix after your name, like first, second, third, junior, senior, you got to put that down too. You got to put your address, your height, your weight, your gender, your birthday, if you're Hispanic Latino, not Hispanic Latino, for your ethnicity, and then for your race, there's a whole separate subsection for that. And then you have the option to put your social security number. You don't have to put that. Then there's a whole list of questions they ask you. Are you the one buying a gun? Are you ever committed a felony? Are you an unlawful user of marijuana? Which, don't get me started on that. Whole list of questions. That
I love how all the other drugs are on there. It's just weed.
Yeah. Oh, you're an unlawful user of crystal meth? That's fine.
Yeah. You can buy a gun.
And it just goes on and on, this list of questions. And then it asks you, are you a U.S. citizen or not? Are you an illegal immigrant? They call it aliens now. Illegal aliens. And that's still not even completely politically correct.
We need George Carlin back. He needs to come back and fix all this.
And then after you do that, after you've filled out that entire page, you got to sign and date saying that all the information you put is true. And then the employee has to take that paperwork and conduct what is called a NICS check. That's the National Instant Criminal Background Check. It's run by the FBI. There's a number you call. You tell them what store you're calling from. You give them your store's code number. And then you read off that sheet what the person wrote down. Whatever you wrote down to buy the gun, that's what's going to get read off to the examiner. They're going to run a background check on you. And people say we need more in-depth background check. There's no way to do a more in-depth background check because all the computers in the fucking country are linked. If you fucking murdered someone in Hawaii and you're trying to buy a gun in New Hampshire, it's going to show up over there.
Yeah.
If you got arrested for unlawful possession of marijuana in Montana and you try to buy a gun in Alaska, it's going to show up there. Like, there's no way to get it any more in-depth. So it's literally just saying, has this person been arrested? Yes, this is why. And then they decide if that's illegal. Because there's some crimes you can get arrested for and they will still sell you a gun afterwards.
What universal background check really means is a hard set gun registry.
Yeah, what they really want to do is not, in addition to taking your name, because all your information's on that sheet, the gun store still holds on to that. They don't give that to the government. The government doesn't know what gun you're buying. They just know that you are purchasing a gun, and they say if you're a criminal or not. What the universal background check is that the government would have to create a whole new algorithm and system for storing information. They'd know who you are, how old you are, what you look like, where you live, what gun you own, exactly what caliber it is, and how many you have.
And they can find out that information anyway if you're under investigation of a crime. Mm-hmm. Because they can go to these stores and get that information. Hey, we know this store, he bought a gun at this store. We just don't know much about him or what gun he bought. They can go to that store, and the serial number is on the paperwork, so it is linked. That weapon is linked to you. That's when they say, like, I hated the whole debacle there with the whole ghost gun bullshit. It's like, we can't trace these. We can't follow them. They don't follow guns. They're just using that as a fucking... They're using big words and crazy stuff so that you think that they can do more than they actually can.
It reminds me
It's not a preventative measure that they're using. It's actually a reverse measure. They're trying to convince you it's a preventative measure. It is not. After a crime is committed, they can figure out if that gun was under your name. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They can't, like, fucking type it into a computer system and figure out where the fucking gun is right now.
So you have Bobby Lee goes out and buys a shotgun at Cabela's. And he takes it home. He has it for 5 years. He sells it to Randy. Randy gets it stolen out of his truck 2 years later by Joe Bob. Joe Bob murders someone, runs away, gun gets left at the scene. The cops are going to find that gun, search that serial number, say, okay, it was sold from this Cabela's. And they're going to call that Cabela's, hey, when was this gun sold? Cabela's is going to say it was sold on this date, and they're going to be like, who bought it? They'll be like, it was Bobby Lee. And then they're going to go ask Bobby Lee, do you still have this gun? Have you sold it? Like, is it still yours? And that's pretty much where the trail will go cold for 90% of things.
And it comes back to the whole thing in Virginia. The governor is threatening, maybe not the governor, one of his lackeys is threatening to cut off like electricity, Wi-Fi, any type of communication in areas where there are people who have guns who won't give them up.
So
how do you think? Go ahead.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for now. That's just been alleged.
Yeah,
we don't know for sure. I'm not saying I don't believe it because I totally believe they would do that. Yeah. It still is just alleged. The governor, in his small cabinet, said, "How would we go about shutting off power, water, and cell service and internet to people if we're trying to raid them?"
But that's also even fucked. How do we use governmental power to cancel a service they have paid for that we do not have a constitutional right to take away from them?
Exactly.
That is, if you buy power, if you have a contract with a power company, if I use this electricity, I pay you this much, that is your property, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That electricity is yours.
The government should not be able to have access to not only the information, but have access to turn any of that shit
If they
off.
turn it off, that's the same as if they came in your house, kicked down your door, and then stole your TV and walked away.
Yeah.
It's theft, plain and simple.
Yeah. Or it's same with your fucking Wi-Fi, your water, your electricity. I don't fucking care. If it is on your property or you were paying for it, it is fucking yours.
The government has proven they cannot track guns. They literally, in Operation Fast and Furious, they literally gave the cartel's M2 50 cal machine guns
And
that
they
are being
lost them.
used to gun down Mexican police and military.
I love how for years those machine guns were missing. They're like, oh, we don't know where they are. And then like 2 weeks ago, El Chapo's son gets arrested and those machine guns came out in the public again.
Yeah.
Which is also funny because like they're like, oh, we want to track these things so that we can figure out where they're being used and how they're being sold. That doesn't change the fact that that's illegal.
Yeah.
By your standard, you sold criminals weapons.
Yeah.
And you
Not only criminals, you also exported firearms illegally across the border.
I was just about to say, you illegally exported machine guns, so all those agents should be in federal prison right now. By their standards.
What was the plan?
Fuck federal prison. They should be tied by their big toe to a horse.
So Michael's going to go full conspiracy right now. And I don't care what you say, this is true. The only reason that they sold those fucking guns to the cartels is they wanted them to be used in shootings and crimes in America so they could further push gun control laws. They'd be like, oh, look, all these machine guns are being sold illegally. We need to ban all weapons that use this ammo, and we need to ban all weapons that can shoot this fast. That was the only reason they sold them to the cartels, because they knew they'd be used in crimes, and they knew they could use those crimes as ammunition against the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the federal government got a bunch of drugs or drug money to be used for whatever evil ends they have.
I can promise you
are we
have.
breaking into the CIA literally causing Atlanta to fall? Like, are we going to go into the disparity of poor people in Atlanta and how the CIA is the reason why it was such a shitty place for such a long time?
It still is a shitty place, but continue.
I mean, yeah.
It's gotten a lot better. It's
gotten so much better.
The murder rate is like the early.
It's down
90s.
from 75% to 63%.
No, you don't understand. In the 90s, the murder rate was like 10 murders a week.
Yeah.
It was bad. It's like 1 now.
Yeah.
It's gotten a lot better.
It has definitely gotten a lot better, but people, I mean, every different side has a different opinion. Most of them are wrong because they're not looking at all the information. But the far left is like, oh no, these people are being held under by corporations and this, that, or the other, and that's why there's a disparity of income over here. And then the right is like, no, or I don't even say the right. The far right is like, it's either a culture or a race thing. And then you've got everyone who actually did any investigation is like, the CIA, the federal fucking government, is the reason it's a shit show. Because they purposefully sold drugs there so that they could make money that wasn't traceable to fund the shit they were doing.
So I'm gonna actually correct you. The CIA is not the problem that Atlanta has. The reason there's so many murders and people are so angry in Atlanta is because every street is named Peachtree Street, and it's really easy to get lost there, and people just get frustrated.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with the fact that Atlanta has some shitty roads, and they were set up shittily. That's one thing that the West Coast did, I'm going to say did right.
Yeah.
The West Coast is older, or is newer. So it has roads more modernly set up. Mm-hmm. The East Coast, a lot of it is very fucking old. So you have a lot of roads and buildings and places you can't just take from people to make roads that are set up in a better way. So that's why we have absolute shit traffic all the fucking time.
Well, even modern roads in LA didn't exactly help.
I mean,
LA has the worst traffic in the world, I think.
Well, yeah, but you're also looking at
Besides like what
ridiculous amounts of
people, population,
forced economy. Government-funded economy, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But, fuck it, let's go into roads.
Roads.
Or did we already do this one? Have I given this rant on a podcast before?
Oh no, I'd like to hear Ryan's rant.
Go for it. Ryan's rant.
Okay. I have never been so fucking livid than driving in Georgia roads. We give so much fucking money to the federal government that is sold back to the states as long as they abide by the rules the federal government wants them to create our roads. Shit tons of money. And then they go in and put fucking express lanes and shit that you have to pay for to use with the tax money that you have fucking already paid for. They use that money to make the roads, and then during high traffic, oh, you want to use this road that we built? It's an $18 charge. They have earned back all of the fucking money for the roads just by taxing the shit out of it and only letting the people who can afford to use these roads. And then the roads still suck dick. We spend so much fucking money, and I have never wanted to just off myself more than sitting at the exit 27 fucking roadway on 285 trying to go towards Cumming, sitting in traffic for 45 minutes, not moving a single inch. I don't know how the civil engineers were not fired or drawn and quartered. I don't know how someone sat down and looked at the group of civil engineers that came up with that fucking roadway and said, "Good job," patted them on the back and said, "You are worth the money we're paying you. You should feel like shit if you designed these roads." Fuck.
Don't even get Ryan started on how we pay all this money for road repairs and then they just end up taking a steel slab and throwing it over potholes.
Oh my, which is almost as bad for the tire. It's like an 1.5 inch steel slab.
If you're ever driving through the South, you're not sure what state you're in, and the road is covered with like 4 foot by 4 foot inch thick steel plates, you're in Georgia.
I blew a tire on the highway doing 75 not long ago. Not only did I almost shit my pants, because I almost lost control of my car, and if I crashed that car, someone would have to pay for it. Like, I don't know how, but they would have to pay for it. But the roads are so shit, and that event is so near in my mind. I am horrified driving on the roads I drive on constantly. Every time I hit a fucking bump, I'm like, that's it. That's the tire. I'm gonna fucking lose it. And then this car is gonna be a mangled piece of steel they're gonna have to pry my body out of. Because some asshole couldn't fix the goddamn roads.
Whew. I mean, it would take just the same amount of time to pour some asphalt in the pothole and roll over it with a press.
Yeah.
But instead, the hole will be 1 foot in diameter, and they'll put a 6 foot diameter steel slab over it, and then cover that with asphalt. Because they've already got the asphalt out there, because that's how they glue the fucking steel to the ground anyways. You could just skip the steel plate and pour the asphalt in. But no, some jerk in the fucking government accidentally ordered 50 billion tons of steel sheets, and they're like, we gotta use them somehow.
Well, like,
fuck it, just make the entire road steel.
Hell, why not? That'd be slick as fuck, but...
It starts raining.
So, but that we have the fix to the road system, but that's going to come in a later podcast when we have fully developed our tax plan.
Y'all aren't ready for that, but your kids will love it.
When do we get to implement medically safe methamphetamines?
When we get rid of all drug laws. Fuck medically safe. If you want to do this thing and it's dangerous, go for it.
I'm pretty sure this is like gopher urine mixed with battery acid. We're gonna shoot it up and see what happens.
And like legalize all drugs and only punish people for normal crimes. Being high shouldn't be a crime, but at the same time, on the other hand, you may not be directly hurting your kids, but if you're high all the time and can't feed them, then you're depriving them of their rights. So, it's child abuse.
Yeah, so there are different, but that's already a crime.
Yeah.
Like, you can be totally sober and abuse your children. You don't have to be high to abuse your children. So, that's the actual goal here. If you want to do drugs, go ahead. Maybe we can also implement something like, if you commit a crime while on drugs, that was also endangerment or neglect.
I wouldn't say that because the
else.
crime's already illegal. Being on drugs didn't change the fact that it was illegal.
Okay, and I can understand that.
The same way that we got all these murder laws now. It's like, oh, you murdered someone with a deadly weapon as opposed to just choking them the fuck out and murdering them that way. Like,
does that not make your hands deadly weapons? They killed somebody.
Well, it did in Con Air, but... But, like, I think it's a slippery slope when you start making being under the influence making a crime worse. Because regardless of whether you were under the influence, the crime was still a crime. If I killed someone while sober, that's no different, really, than killing someone while I'm high on PCP. PCP didn't make me kill that person. I consciously made that decision, even if I was a little crazy at the time.
Yeah. No, I mean, and killing someone on PCP shouldn't have a different charge or sentence.
I mean, the facts are still the same. The person died. His family's sad. Me being on drugs didn't make them more sad or less sad. Me being sober doesn't make them more sad or less sad.
I guess, and an extra charge that puts you in jail for another 6 months doesn't make the family more happy.
And then don't let me get me started on jailing murderers, pedophiles, and rapists. I think they should all just be hung. And no jail time.
The only thing that I agree with jail on is sometimes crimes aren't clear-cut. Sometimes there's been plenty of people who have been acquitted of crimes they didn't do but have been in jail for a long period of time because of.
So sad.
If there is, that's a horrifying thing. I can't imagine what people go through. Because, I don't know how you pick yourself up every day knowing that you are being punished for something you never did. That's beyond me.
Yeah.
But I think if a crime is not, blatantly clear-cut, oh, of course this fucking guy did it, there's actually no way to prove he didn't.
Yeah, you got a video of the dude shooting someone.
He mightn't have. He should be jailed if he could have committed the crime, but it's not 99% sure. There's a little bit of gray area.
Yeah, capital punishment should be reserved for
for sure,
it has
for
to be
clear-cut
for
cases.
certain.
Yeah, clear-cut cases, totally fine. Fucking hang 'em high.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the one thing that I think jail is necessary for. You can't kill someone unless you're sure.
Yeah. Also, though, that does bring up the point, well, if you're not 100% sure, then you shouldn't throw them in jail either. We need to look at our justice system, how the detectives and everything do their job. Are they cutting corners just to get as many cases done in a year as possible? Or are they actually
good?
Yeah, or are they actually doing their job thoroughly and making sure? Now, there will always be some cases that's just one of those impossible cases and you can't figure out who the fuck it is. But just because you can't figure out who the fuck it is doesn't mean you'd be like, oh, we gotta punish someone. No, you don't have to punish someone. You have to punish the criminal. Don't just be like, oh, well, we need justice. We're gonna pick a guy. Don't do that. Be sure.
The Founding Fathers were very clear that they would rather 1,000 criminals go free than one innocent man be punished.
Which brings me to a point. I think the actual slippery slope is the possibly unforeseen change in language and ability to interpret things. So people will justify things based on their opinions and stuff like that. Your worldview will affect how you see things that aren't 100% fact, right? Mm-hmm. This is an interesting one. We will probably catch a fuck ton of flack for this. But we are kind of rewriting the Constitution right now. We're trying to reword parts in the Constitution to not implement as law, but to make people understand. I want a document that people look at and go, this is what they meant, and it's put in words that are so definitive you can't fuck this up. So, yeah, like I said, we're just going to catch a fuck ton of flack for this. There's no way I can say it that it doesn't sound shitty.
They're not ready for that yet either.
But you're not ready for this.
Because this is gonna be a big project because we're gonna have to get as many people as possible to like with differing opinions to like point out flaws, and we haven't even finished the Bill of Rights yet. We're stuck.
Yeah, we got stuck. We're currently at a point. I mean, a couple of things were really easy. The Second Amendment, it was super fucking easy to rewrite that in such a way that you can't misinterpret it.
Yeah.
I mean, think
We
of how long
got a
it
little
took.
bit further, and we're like, this is going to take months.
Think how long it took the founding fathers to pen the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
Took them like 15 years.
Yeah, and think about how many revisions and things it went through before they had a product they were happy with.
We also need to take the Articles of Confederation into account as well.
Yeah.
We need to look through that and see what we should keep.
Like we talked about last night, I think I'm going to read the entirety of the, what are those called? The Anti-Federalist Papers and the Federalist Papers. I want to grow my scope before we totally buckle down and start doing this all the way.
Yeah.
But the slippery slope that we're facing right now is not just society, is not just culture, it is the way society and culture are making you interpret what was supposed to be definitive law. If this is definitive law, if the Constitution had everything right, but people are interpreting it differently, then there's something, not broken, but there's something that can be improved, and we need to improve it.
Well, and I'm not even saying it needs to be improved back then. When they wrote it back then, it was in plain English to them. That, like you said, language evolves over time. Back then, they knew exactly what it meant when they read it. Nowadays, the English language is a weird language. There are so many synonyms and different types of verbiage in the language that things can be easily misconstrued. And the language has grown. I forget how much it has grown since the 1700s, but it is massively different than it was back then.
Oh yeah, and we have like I was saying, cultural and societal differences. We have slang that never used to exist. I mean, if someone from the Founding Fathers time frame listened to us speak, they would be beyond confused.
Yeah.
And then if they moved a state over into an urban area, they would be way more confused. And then they could have moved inside the same state to a rural area, and they'd be like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, like our generation talks mostly in memes anyway.
Big stonks.
Big stonks.
Which is why one of the most important things about the First Amendment is
freedom of speech.
Not just freedom of speech, it covers communication in general.
Freedom of expression.
Any kind of communication or expression is what's covered by that. Because the Founding Fathers understood that.
Mm-hmm.
They understood language is not the only way you communicate. Written language or spoken language is not the only way you communicate.
I mean, even back then, they used, like in school, teaching kids to read, they'd have a picture of something that began with the letter that their kids learning. Like, if you're learning the letter R, you'd have a picture of a red coat soldier. No, I'm serious. Like, that's their actual curriculum.
Just full of bullet holes.
You're learning S, you learn the word ship, and it would be a picture that someone drew of a ship.
Yeah.
Like, that's how people have used, like, the fucking hieroglyphics back in Egypt. People have used pictures and depictions for communication for thousands of years.
But the same thing goes for social media.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've also got to... this is an interesting thing to me. I can't imagine what it was like before written language or spoken language. That must have been so intense.
Mm-hmm.
You must have had to... Your brain must have been functioning at fucking full capacity just trying to understand when people were trying to communicate with you.
And this might be just because of my religious beliefs, I think that language has always existed.
Yeah.
See, I mean, we could break that down. Were Adam and Eve talking in the garden? Like,
We don't know.
or were they communicating in the garden? That's a weird one. I don't know how the things they were saying, or I don't know how they were saying things.
Little known
They were
fact,
communicating, but...
Adam and Eve were actually very proficient in American Sign Language.
They only spoke Braille.
God, it was such a pain in the ass to talk then.
How did you know when Eve was horny? Oh, two bumps would pop up. He'd read the Braille.
That's so sacrilegious.
I shouldn't have said that
That's
one.
funny. That's pretty. That's
Whoa, I don't know if that's sacrilegious. That might be a strong term for what that was.
Yeah,
but.
true.
I made a joke
So-
about 2 people.
I think we have covered all the things we've written on the piece of paper except for our tactical session, which I think
Did
is
we cover
good.
everything?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
We had a little bit less written down.
Oh, yeah,
today,
we got
'cause
the-
a
we
lot
got-
of political stuff is in a stalemate right now, so there's not a whole lot more we can say on it without rehashing old topics too much.
Well, don't forget the next Ryan rant segment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh.
We could do a tactical session first.
We'll do it after.
Or
That's a good. I like closing out with the tactical stuff.
Yeah, I have got something for Ryan to rant about today.
Be
Now-
ready to hear unfiltered opinion.
Now, disclaimer,
Get your kids out of the room.
whether we like it or not, there is an LGBTQ community in America.
I don't have a problem with it
And
as long as
I
they're
don't
not.
have a problem with it. But what I do have a problem with is what this article talks about is purposely indoctrinating children to it, because that opens up a whole lot of doors to a whole lot of bad. So this article is on Reuters.com. It's called "The ABCs of LGBTQ History Mandated for More U.S. Public Schools." It starts out, a picture book for 2nd graders about a family with 2 moms. A lesson for 4th graders about Gold Rush era stagecoach driver Charlie Parkhurst, who was born a woman but lived in a man. These are just some of the ways U.S. public school students will learn about LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer history, and a growing number of states moving to mandated inclusive K through 12 curriculum. Ryan, what are your opinions on the forcing down the throats of blatantly sexual topics for young children? Also, when a kid decides that he picks up a Barbie doll and his parents are like, well, time to chop off your balls and make you a girl.
So I think Georgia actually passed legislation on this recently, which has put my mind at ease to some extent over this topic. They passed legislation where, like, this is not legal to force upon children. You cannot make a decision that they understand the risks and the lack of ability to communicate as a young person, and that we cannot transfer them into a different, or we cannot, transition them into a different gender because we think they might be. That is way too much to put on a child, especially considering the possible suicide rates and other stuff. It's a flip of a coin death sentence.
Yeah.
Which is fucking horrible to put on someone who can't even properly communicate yet. But
I mean, kid's still eating boogers, yet he has the mental capacity to decide that he's a girl.
yeah, that's or mental capacity to decide whether or not he's okay with possibly or more than likely committing suicide at some point in time in his life because of this decision that's been made for him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, he cannot make that decision. I want to bring this into a different sector here. Education is the problem, and our education system is the problem. There should be no fucking federal education system that is bullshit that can force people to do things. Education, I don't even care if you're teaching people not necessarily the right thing. That is your community's decision to fucking decide. If your community wants to teach everyone that we didn't land on the moon, or we did land on the moon, I don't fucking care. That's your community's decision.
Spoiler, we did.
And they need to come up with the decision. Because, I mean, it's kind of social Darwinism.
Yep.
You fucking live or you die. You teach them the wrong thing and it causes a bad thing. Now we've all learned a lesson, and the people that are unimportant are out of the gene pool now.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to go into the whole trans thing here. Oh, I don't even know where to start touching on this. That's
How
a
about the
difficult
government
one.
paying for transition surgeries? With
My
my tax dollars?
My issue is there is no research whatsoever, or there is research, but all of it is conflicting right now, as to whether letting somebody transition is better or worse for them. There is no clear-cut, hey, this is a valid form of treatment for gender dysphoria. Please stop pushing things that you pretend are medical or you believe are medical that aren't on people. That is not a proper form of treatment. These people, the majority of the time, gender dysphoria comes with a fucking other huge list of side effects and mental disorders. You need to be treating the symptoms, because these people are fucking killing themselves. at rates that are astronomical. They are depressed as fuck. You're not treating the problem, or you might be thinking you're treating the problem, but they're still killing themselves at astronomical rates. So obviously it's not fucking working. Treat their depression, treat their anxiety, help them so they're not blowing their goddamn brains out all over the fucking walls of America because you think your fucking political agenda is more goddamn important than their fucking lives. Fuck.
And that has been Ryan Rants.
I would like to
This
touch
is
on
why
one of
we
the
don't
subjects.
start on that, because I just...
Yeah. Whew, veins were popping.
yeah.
One thing I would like to touch on that he went over, but I'd like to reiterate it again, because I think it's important, is you get people are like, oh, we gotta let kids transition young and everything. Like, no. Like I was saying, you're letting a kid that's eating boogers and bugs off of bushes outside. The same kid will see a piece of gum on the sidewalk and put it in his mouth without thinking twice.
Ew.
Is also, you're saying he has the mental capacity to decide that he is not a boy. Scientists are still trying to figure that out. These are people that have doctorates in this shit, and they still don't understand this. So what makes you think a 4-year-old kid's going to know? Now, what you can do, in a libertarian society, I'm a libertarian, not a Republican, not a Democrat. People can do whatever the fuck they want to their body. It doesn't hurt me at all when some dude chops his dick off. I don't give a fuck. But don't let a kid do it, because he doesn't know. He's not 18 yet, he's not an adult. Once he turns 18, let him do it. But you got parents that are making these decisions for their kids. Let the kid grow up how he wants. Like, if he's insisting that you buy him girl clothes, then buy him girl clothes, but don't say, hey, you should wear this because I think that you're a girl. Let the kid decide, and then as he grows up, he'll make choices, he'll learn from those choices, and then maybe watch him turn 18 and he decides, you know what? That was just a phase. I don't actually think I'm a girl. I'm a dude.
Yo, dude, that was kind of gay.
Like,
Low-key.
Like, let him fucking
that's fine,
decide
but
for
that's gay.
himself once he has grown. Don't let him make this life-altering decision so young in his life. Let
That
him
you can't
think
take
about
back.
it. You can't take it back. And I think it's like 85% or 86% of people that have gone through transition surgery end up killing themselves because they're like, I've just mutilated my body and I decided I'm not this way. And they end up eating their gun or jumping off of a building or walking out into traffic or hanging themselves or slitting their wrists.
I think it's...
And the suicide
I think
rate...
attempt rates are closer to what you were saying.
Yeah.
The successful attempt rates are like closer to 40 or something.
And they're
So, like,
still astronomically
that's
high.
retardedly high.
And one of the biggest issues is they're using the high rate of suicide to push it even harder because they're saying, oh, well, the reason why he committed suicide was because he wasn't accepted by general society, so we need to push this idea more so everyone becomes more accepting of them. No one's going, unless you're in the backwoods, no one's going out there and fucking lynching gay people. That doesn't happen anymore.
No, and I mean, on a less personal level, hardship does not necessarily determine suicide rates. Acceptance rates does not necessarily determine suicide rates. I mean, if your life absolutely fucking sucks in a third world country, chances are you're not going to try and kill yourself. That is a completely different first world problem that we're facing because of other stressors in our lives that we have kind of created. We have created a really ridiculous system right now, and the stressors of that system is the majority of what is causing people to kill themselves. If I bet you if trans people existed, I'm not saying they don't exist in other places, but I bet if people with gender dysphoria in other countries were studied, especially third world or developing countries, they would have completely different suicide rates.
Yeah.
It's not just cultural, it's societal, and we're forcing it on them. That's what's fucking murdering them over here.
All right.
Man, we touched that one pretty well.
We touched it pretty hard.
Just like Catholic priest touched me when I was younger.
Just like the Catholic priest touched the little boy who started living. He was like,
We hit that topic harder than Jeffrey Epstein was hitting young kids on his island.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. Oh.
He didn't kill himself.
Jeffrey Epstein did not.
He either didn't kill himself or he's still alive.
Hashtag suicide by Hillary.
Yeah, that was either a suicide or he's living somewhere else.
Yeah, because
both of those are
his
horrifying prospects.
private jet just decided to fly to Antarctica for no reason and just sit there after he died. So there's that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe the pilot was like,
I'm gonna go live in the ice.
I was in on this. I'm screwed. And he's just like flying. He goes, I've never been to Antarctica before. Might as well do that before I die. Looked at some scenery and crashed his fucking plane into the side of an ice cap or something.
Yeah, but it's like the only area in Antarctica that's not visible by Google Maps. You can't
Jeffrey
see.
Epstein's
Oh
pilot.
my. Oof.
Jeffrey Epstein's pilot mysteriously committed suicide by Hellfire missile from a Predator drone.
I can't believe he committed suicide like that.
I know.
Yeah, the plane landed.
Technically, it wouldn't be impossible if you were at the fucking in Nevada at the drone base and you're just in your fucking cubicle and you've had a bad day at work. You just look at your cubicle through the drone and
That's how you go out with a bang, I guess.
Yeah. The guy who stole the plane and just started flying around. And
Oh god,
then
Sky King.
Sky King.
yeah,
Man, I fell for that, man.
I felt bad for him.
So, we're about to go down a road that's real weird. That man was so let down by everything in his life. And it was hilarious. It's not even hilarious. It was interesting because I have heard the recordings and stuff. And you can be distressed. And you can be upset. And you can be done with life. But this man was a genuinely pure guy. Because he's flying the plane or whatever. And he said something like, come on, pull out of this turn. Lives are at stake. And the guy on the other end was like, all right, now, don't say stuff like that. And he's like, no, man, don't worry about it. I'm not trying to hurt nobody. Like, that man did not want to hurt a fucking soul. He just
wanted to fly.
He just wanted to fly.
he just wanted to fly until he was done.
Yeah.
And
You can push a man to the point where he has given up, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's a bad person or he wants to hurt other people. And that one hits home. That I've seen those videos and the audio recordings, and that was a tough one.
well, let's move off of this horribly depressing topic into something a little more.
Yeah, you want to wrap up with some tactical information?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna intro this with what I have written down for the tactical information section.
So organized.
Yeah, I know it is. It's a blurb. It's not even a full thing. What I wrote down was good battle-ready gear, not a $6,000 talisman.
I like that. It's more than you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, I'm someone that works in the gun industry. And you get a few different types of gun buyers. The two most prolific that I've seen, and it hurts my soul, is you got the person that means well and they want to do good with their gun, but they're either not in a financially stable position to buy good quality gear, or they just don't know any better, or they're cheap. And so they'll buy a Palmetto State Armory AR-15, which I'm not trying to knock PSA's AR-15s. I mean, their Gen 3 rifles are pretty solid. But I wouldn't call them battle-ready weapons. And then the person will put a sight mark optic. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this because so many people have sight marks. You shouldn't. They're nicknamed the shit mark for a reason. They break. They're airsoft quality. I wouldn't even call them airsoft quality, but they charge prices that make you think they're good. They're not. You're being played by a Holosun or an Aimpoint. But I digress. Then you've got the people who are rich as shit, but they have no desire to put the training and effort into it. They just like, hey, what's good? You tell them what's good, they buy it, and it sits in their safe, and they maybe bring it to a 25-yard range once a year. I've sold plenty of people who shoot a lot. I've sold plenty of people AR-15, like Palmetto State Armory AR-15s, and they shoot a lot, and they actually put some training in. The only problem is their shit breaks because it's not great quality. Then I've sold dentists and lawyers and doctors, all these rich people. I've sold them fucking loaded to the tits Daniel Defense DDM4s and Knights Armament SR25s and Noveski rifles and Geisley rifles and just all the cool shit. And they've got an Aimpoint T2 Micro or a Comp M5 on it, a PEC 15 laser emitter. They buy some night vision and a helmet, and then they don't do anything with it. And oh man, there's just you gotta
For every what I like to do is this. Whenever I buy a gun or a new piece of gear, I like to put aside the exact same amount of money I spent on that rifle to take a class or that gear to hey, I bought this $100 rucksack. I'm going to set aside $100 that will fund my hiking expedition.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I just bought $1,000 scope. I'm gonna buy 1,000 rounds of ammo, and I'm gonna train with that scope. I'm gonna learn how to use it. I'm gonna learn the ins and outs of it, what its limits are, how to use it effectively.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you can buy cheap, shitty gear for training, as long as it is similar enough to your normal gear that it doesn't require a difference in training.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally fine. If you're going to buy expensive fucking gear and then not train with it, I'd rather you buy a bunch of shitty things to train with and then one good thing to actually use. Because, I mean, it was one of the things, I was training with, what's that called? Steel case ammo.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious because I had so many malfunctions.
Here's the thing,
Which isn't a bad thing. Training to clear malfunctions is fucking great.
And you bet your ass when you're shooting brass and you have a malfunction, you're going to know exactly what to do now.
And that's the difference. Now I have at least all of my brass ammo, I'm actually going to buy more, is what's loaded into my mags. I bought good working brass ammo, something I actually totally recommend, that I bought. It is a little expensive, but it works. Lehigh Defense Control Chaos. That's what I've got loaded into my first couple
Lehigh
mags.
Defense, everything.
So
Yeah.
I have a little bit of different opinion. So there's three things. There's training, there's practicing, and there's shooting. Shooting is just going to a range and just plugging targets.
Mm-hmm.
Training is under the eyes of a qualified instructor, getting techniques and skills
And feedback on
and
them.
feedback on how you're performing. Practice is when you're practicing what the instructor was teaching you. So,
Honestly, the most important thing is training and practice.
Yeah.
yep.
Get good training from someone who knows what the fuck they're doing and that has been tested. This is tested it works. We know it works.
Mm-hmm.
Then practice that training. That is so much better than going to the range and just shooting targets.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're training to be a fucking sniper, you got the sniper training, and now your training is your shooting.
So like a typical,
Or your practice is your shooting.
and I hate ranges. I hate I hate just shooting at ranges. Now, I go to them often because I'm employed at one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
even
honestly,
me-
that's pretty awesome for you.
Yeah.
You do get to be able to shoot. and
But I
try
am
things.
able to practice quite a bit at this range. When I'm going to shoot at an indoor range, I'm not just sitting there just, oh man, I'm going to put this battleship target up and play a game of battleship with my pops. I mean, that can be fun every now and then. But when I'm going to train, if I'm shooting pistol, I will dry fire in my stall. And people look at me like I'm weird. I will take my mags out, unload everything, and I will just practice dry firing for 20, 30 minutes at a time. Just make sure, okay, I've got my form good, my trigger squeeze is good, and I'll just dry fire for a good 20, 30 minutes. And then, when I get my gun ready to shoot, I'm not just like, oh boy, I'm shooting. I'm like, okay, how am I going to shoot today? Today I'm going to do draw from the holster, controlled pairs with a reload. So I'll load 2 rounds in 2 magazines, and then I'll put 1 mag in my pistol, 1 mag in my mag pouch, or my mag holder on my belt, and I'll put my pistol in the holster. And I'll just practice. I'll go slow at first. Lift shirt, pull pistol, present pistol, line sights, on target, pull trigger, drop mag, new mag in, rack slide, pull trigger. And then I'll slowly speed that up to the point where I'm doing just as good fast as I was slow. I don't just, I'm just going to shoot this target willy-nilly today.
Yeah,
There is a difference. Like, you can
You
get some...
still gotta make sure you're making good hits.
Yeah.
Your practice is shit if you're not getting good hits.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm shooting a rifle, if I can, sometimes I do have the luxury because I work there. Sometimes I do have the luxury that I can. There's 6 lanes that are closed to the public, and I'll put up 3 or 4 targets, and I'll practice transition drills, just switching from target to target. I'll practice a little bit of footwork. Even if I can't do that, I'll get a target that has, like, we have some of them that's like squares and triangles and circles with numbers on them,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll just pick. Okay, I'll pick color. I'll do blue, red, yellow, and it'll be bam, 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 bam. And I'll just move from color to color transitioning. I'll do different shapes. I'll do numbers, whatever. Trying to incorporate some actual training to your range trips, or not training, practicing your range trips. Don't just go, okay, I'm going to put a target at 30 yards and just stand here standing still and shoot. Try to get some training out of your gear.
But a good recap of that is basically the last portion of what I had wrote down. Your $6,000 talisman means nothing if you don't know how to use it.
Oh, yeah.
Do not blow good fucking money on an awesome weapon because you think it'll protect you. You have to know how to protect yourself.
There is effort you have to put in.
That thing does nothing, no matter how good it is, unless it's fucking electronically operated and is autonomous and does everything itself. It is not good enough unless you have trained on it. It is not, or you are using it as a talisman. You think that it will keep you safe just by owning it. This is the fucking modern day. You can't wear a goddamn crystal around your neck and hope it stops bullets, okay? Just like you can't own a gun that you don't know how to use and hope that it stops the enemy.
I can take a $400 Palmetto State Armory AR with iron sights out to the range, and I can go up against the fucking dentist who just bought a fucking Noveski AR-15 with a Geisley trigger and has a Trigicon ACOG on it, and I can outshoot him on the range with my gun because I have put time and effort into practicing. I've attended classes, I've done training, I know what I'm doing, whereas this dude just bought this $6,000 gun and thinks it's going to make him like Lucas Bakken.
Yep.
Yeah. I had a quote in mind that I was going to have to reference Levi to say the quote, but I have forgotten it at this point. Fuck, it was a good one too. Damn my memory. Alright.
Alright. You guys got anything else for him?
I think that's all I got.
I think that's the wrap up there.
Wait, now I would like to add, if you want some good training, check out James Yeager, Tactical Response, John Lovell with Warrior Poet Society, and if you live a little bit more western, Clint Smith, Thunder Ranch.
Thunder Ranch.
Larry Vickers.
Pat McNamara.
Oh, Pat McNamara.
John Farnham. Ken Hackathorn. A regular guy.
Was it Pat McNamara or John Farnham? This is the quote I just remembered it. It was something about you should be seeing your target like you had X-ray eyes.
That's actually Masad Ayub.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. That's what it was.
Masad Ayub's a boss.
Amazing quote though, because
signed the book from him.
I don't remember exactly how it was said, but it's like you should be seeing your target like you have X-ray eyes. You should look at a human body and know where the fucking aorta is. You should be able to see his spinal cord, and that is where you should be putting rounds.
Yeah.
You can't do that unless you have trained to do that.
Yeah.
No bodily, what's the word for that?
Function?
No. It's the scientific study of the body. Anatomy. There we go. Know the anatomy of the body, and then train to shoot the anatomy of the body.
That's one thing that a lot of people don't realize about combat shooting fighting is knowing how to operate a weapon is just half the thing. You also got to know where to employ shots on target to disable that target and stop it.
And the biggest issue, the biggest culprit for that, I think, is the U.S. military, because it's a lot easier to train, 30-point ASVAB score grunts just to shoot center mass. And it is to teach them how to literally, surgically disassemble the parts of their heart that keep them pumping.
You take any new recruit now and say, show me the T-zone on a target, they're not going to know what the fuck that is.
And center mass, it definitely has a place in getting people started.
It's great for concealed carry when you're in an emergency situation, everything's moving fast, okay, I have this big target, I need to aim for the very center of it. But when you're actually fighting in combat, know where those precise shots can go to stop a threat immediately.
Yeah, and we do, and other people do train the dumbed down version. We went to training there, fighting pistol, and the way they explained it was shoot center mass of what you can see. If you see an arm, the guy gets behind cover and you see an arm, shoot center mass. You know why you would shoot center mass? That's a fucking bone. If you break his fucking arm, he is not going to be able to use it. They already did let's look at anatomy. What's the best way to teach this to everybody instead of the smart people or the dumb people? They trained well to teach everybody.
Yeah.
So that is a good piece of information, shoot center mass of what you can see. But if you are smart enough to be capable to think about the body while you're doing this.
Trained to that level.
Yes, if you've been trained to that level, you know how to stop a threat. And you know what parts of anatomy help stop the threat the fastest.
Yep.
But before we go down 100 million rabbit trails, I think we're gonna call this one. So.
All right, guys. This has been the Refounding Fathers and Boogaloomike on Instagram.
Woo-woo.
You know, always question everything, push the fight, and pray for freedom.